Welcome back, everyone. To recap, I'm taking my 78 Trans Am and I'm going all electric with it. I've removed the engine out of my car and I plan on putting a Tesla large drive unit into this vehicle. Now, the Tesla motor doesn't have any good mounting points in the car already, so we are going to take a 2012 Camaro rear end and we are going to try to stuff it underneath the Trans Am with a Tesla motor in it. And this is what I've done so far. I've taken the 2012 Camaro rear end, I've built a jig for it, and then we're going to use all these control points, and then we're going to shrink it 4 inches to make sure it fits the track width of the Trans Am. The original track width of the Trans Am was 60 inches, and the track width of the 2012 Camaro is 64 inches. So now I want to set the jig under the car, but I want to know where ride height is going to be. So I want to make sure that my center of the hub is going to be where I want the center of the wheel and tire size I'm using. So I centered that up and got my ride height. And now I need to center the jig to the center line of the vehicle itself. We're working on 3 planes here. We're working on ride height, width, and then length. And so right here we're working on the width, and we're establishing center of the jig to center of the vehicle. I've marked the car in several places down the transmission tunnel, down several areas, so that I can make sure that this jig is centered to the vehicle. I'm taking my laser line, shooting that laser line straight down the split of the jig, and then that laser line will also have to line up with the center markings that I put on the vehicle itself. Here on the transmission tunnel is a good example. I've got a mark here that shows what the center of the transmission tunnel is, and you can see that green laser line is hitting that center of the transmission tunnel nicely. We are looking good there. So now let's go to the front of the car and see how center is lining up in the front. Now, this front end's pretty lined up on my car, and my hood, bumper, everything looks pretty good. And so here you can see the green center line of the laser is hitting almost dead center of the bumper. I think this is a good, well-established center line for the jig, so I can move forward going from here. Now that I've got height and width established on the vehicle, what I've also done is establish length. Length was determined by the center of the hubs to the center of the wheel openings of the vehicle. Now, this is the suspension I'm going to use underneath the car, and you can see the 2012 Camaro's suspension mounting points and where they hit. Well, the problem I have now is that those suspension mount points go almost all the way into my floor of the vehicle. So right there, what we're looking at is the package tray area, or right behind the seat on the Trans Am. 2 control points in the front. I had to cut holes into the floor so I could get the jig far enough forward. Now you can also see another problem that I have is the frame rails of the vehicle are right in line with the 2 front mounting points of that 2012 Camaro suspension. So I need to do something. Well, first I'm going to cut out the floor. Yeah, I know it seems kind of drastic, but we're just going to get rid of this floor, get rid of this rear package tray, and we're going to make room, I guess, for batteries in the future. I think this would be a good place for it. Get rid of the rear seat and put batteries there. Okay, sounds good. Now what do I got to do? I've got to cut the frame rails out of this car. because I need those suspension mounting points to fit underneath the car without frame rails getting in the way of the suspension. So here I am going to chop out the frame rails since I've already chopped out the floor. We're going to start by removing the rest of the floor on the frame rails so I have a better idea of where the frame rails connect to the rocker panels. I do this with using an air hammer. I'm not really worried about ruining any metal on the frame rails or anything, so I'm just going to take an air hammer and chisel out all the spot welds on the rest of this floor here. I used a Sawzall to cut the initial floor out, but just to start tidying things up, I'm going to use an air hammer to trim out the rest of the floor. And a bit of a side note here, the Jig makes a really good platform to sit on when you're cutting out all this stuff and having to do work around this. Okay, I got that all air hammered out now. Now we're just going to kind of rock the rest of the metal back and forth, break the rest of that spot weld loose, and there I can see the rest of my frame rail and what I need to do. Okay, so you can see I've taken the floor out and you can see how much is there. Sorry for the bad picture quality. I forgot to focus when I was doing this video spot right here. But you can see inside the vehicle, floor's out, frame rail coverings are off. Note here, I made control points on the Jig so that the Jig will only fit in one spot from now on moving forward. It will not slide back. I welded those in place so they're solid. That way, in case I had to move the car, I can always put it right back to where it was before, and I'll have established center line on this car, and width and height. So here's a little closer look. You can see this is one of my bolt-in jigging points, but you can see these two control points for the suspension crossmember are right in the way of the frame rail right there. That forward point is a jig mounting spot, but our biggest problem is what are we going to do about those suspension control points and how we're going to get around that. Well, you know how we're going to get around that. I already told you. We're going to cut the floor out, we're going to cut the frame rails out, and we're going to put new frame rails in this car. So this will be a fun project. Like I told you guys from the beginning, it's going to be some work, but that's what you have when you have a resto mod. You're restoring the car, but you're also modifying the parts to fit underneath the car. Here's another closer look at those suspension jig points again. That frame rail is just smack dab right in the middle of it, and we need to get rid of it if we're going to put this Tesla motor underneath the car. So let's get this figured out. We're going to build our own suspension crossmember to fit underneath this thing, and we're going to put some new frame rails in to help us along. Alright guys, well, if you liked the video, hit that like and subscribe button. Stay tuned for future episodes, and make sure you share with friends to have them see what we're doing here and maybe inspire you guys to do your own projects. Alright guys, everybody, you stay safe out there and take care.